Do we have the best intro in all of sports cards?
We might. Here, I'm going to switch this real quick. We're just doing does that feel weird? Does that make you dizzy?
It does, yeah. It makes
What's up, everybody?
dizzy.
I'm Mike. That's Ty. We're on the fly with Mike and Ty. Coming at you with hobby news, talking hobby, having fun. How are you, man?
Good day skiing with the kids today. It was nice. It was a nice Martin Luther King break.
Yeah. So you were skiing today. There's the dichotomy between where Ty and I live. Ty's in Idaho. He's skiing all day. I'm in Texas, 70 degrees. I'm in shorts and a short sleeve shirt playing golf today. So
where would you rather be, golfing or skiing?
I love skiing, man. I really do. Yeah. I'm a pretty good skier, shockingly. And I love to go on ski trips. I would not want to live where I could ski all the time. I'd want to live where I can play golf all the time. So maybe that's the difference. That's okay.
There you go. Well, you're in the right spot.
Yeah, and you are in the right spot because you're.
Would you say you have seasons? Do you have seasons in Texas, like where you are in Dallas?
We do.
Like summer and like spring, basically, right? There's no winter.
Well, we don't have summer. We have summer, pre-summer, and then we have surface of the sun, hot summer, and then it cools down a little bit in the fall for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then it gets cold. Like today it was 70. Tomorrow's gonna be 75. Wednesday the high is gonna be 39. So it's literally all over the place. Wow. And then the next week after that it'll be 70 again.
Yeah.
And then 20. It's just kind of winter's weird here. Can be weird here. We get cold waves and then they go away. You went cold in, November, you won't be warm again until June, right? So
yeah, you're right. That's that is the dichotomy. But I'm a big fan of like wide variances in the seasons. Like give me a really warm summer and a really cold winter and everything in between. That's what I thrive on.
Nice. Well, I think you're in a place for that, right?
Yeah. Speaking of thriving and dichotomies, you got the Chiefs and you got the Cowboys. Two ends of the spectrum. What the heck, man? You were talking some big game with your Cowboys, and they came out and laid a turd.
I am neither surprised, but I'm significantly disappointed in what happened yesterday. And, you can blame it on the refs. You can blame it on the finish, which was weird. They shouldn't have even been in that spot. And kudos to the 49ers. They played well enough to win. I think if they played 5 more times, the Cowboys would win 4 out of 5 of them. And they're just the more talented team. The 49ers won. The Cowboys self-destruct. I hate fans, though, that just go, it's our fault. You got to give credit to the other team. They did things. I mean, Mike Shanahan's a pretty smart guy. They have a good offensive scheme. Deebo Samuel is freaking electric, but because we got behind at the very beginning, we never got to get to our defensive game plan, which was make Jimmy Garoppolo have to beat you. He didn't have to beat us yesterday. I think if that we would have gotten ahead where they're forced to throw more, then the game turns very different. They scored on the opening drive. We're playing behind literally the whole game. And that made it where they were able to play their game, which is run and, play good defense and all that kind of stuff. So
I did watch the game. To me, I mean, first off, your offensive line was total squirrel poop. I mean, they were bad. But 49ers just out coached the Cowboys. Like it wasn't even close. Like they came out with a scheme that I think was just very well thought out. And the Cowboys were on their heels the entire time, like you said. And it just didn't. The run game was out. Zeke was not even a factor. And that's not who the Cowboys are. They need Zeke to kind of level things out and open it up for Dak. And it didn't look good.
They actually don't. They need to give Tony Pollard the ball more.
They do need to give Pollard the ball more, yeah.
He had 4 carries. And, oh, by the way, they were on the one long sustained touchdown drive that they had. Not a coincidence, It's a sad story. We see it here all the time. As Cowboys fans, we're used to it, and everybody hates us, and they're glad we lose, and that's fine. But man, the Chiefs look great. They had an initial scare, and boy, they just turned it into another gear, didn't they?
They did. That's what the league fears about the Chiefs is that when they flip the switch on offense, they are just, you saw it. They can score in so many ways. When Mahomes gets in that groove, like you could tell in the first quarter, it was almost like they were going to try to play, small ball with the Steelers. And then the second quarter is like, no, let's play our game. Let's play Chiefs football. And that was really fun to watch. What was it? 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes or something like that? It was just stupid.
Yeah. And they just poured it. I mean, it was lots of blowouts, this weekend so far. We got a game tonight, Rams Cardinals. See what Matt Stafford can do.
I'm excited about that game. Real quick on the Chiefs. I was thinking about this earlier. So Kelsey is severely underrated in the hobby. And I saw a stat today where he tied, I think Michael Irvin actually, for the second most 100-yard games in the playoffs with 7. And he's 1 game away from tied for first all time. And I was looking at his stats, like compared to all other Hall of Fame or, all-time great tight ends. And he's in the top 7 or 8 of basically every possible stat that you can imagine with tight ends. Is he a Hall of Famer in your book already?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he's going to keep playing for a while, right?
He's 32. I mean, he's probably got 2 or 3. I mean, with Mahomes, he's going to play at least a couple more years, right? And that's guaranteed to give you a couple more all-pro seasons.
Yep.
Kind of a steal right now, if you ask me, in terms of hobby.
Again, in the hobby in football, unless you're a quarterback, it's so hard to get true love and love equates to dollar signs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part about our hobby, which is a great segue into our topic of the night. And I wanted to spend pretty much as we can on this, Ty, pretty much the whole episode. There's not a whole lot of just kind of normal hobby news, but there is a lot of stuff that all this negative news that's coming out the last week or so. And it's kind of depressing to me because I don't want everybody to get this, oh, here come Mike and Ty, prophets of doom. That's not what this is about. This is about talking through these things, talking through the topic that this video is about that's down below on the screen.
Is greed destroying the hobby?
Yes, because it's sad. There's so many new people, we both know this, in the hobby over the last few years. The last thing I want to see is for them to be, have their hobby completely soured by all this negative stuff and them going, oh, it's like that. Well, guess what? It's always been like this. This is not new. This is not new to the hobby. Scandals are not new to the hobby. Bad actors in good places are not. None of this is new. What I think is different now is our social media world and the way it is. I mean, a case in point is what happened Saturday night at the Dallas Card Show. I sent you the video.
Yeah.
I think it's all over Twitter and everywhere. There was a gentleman there selling cards, allegedly selling fake cards, Jordan rookies and other high-end stuff at a trade night, not at the show itself, but at the trade night that night. I had been there that day. I was not there for any of this, so I was not a witness to any of this, but there's videos out there galore. And the thing that struck me about it is all the throngs of people around this guy, probably going through one of the worst moments of his life, being arrested and tackled and, handcuffed and all these things, and all these people with phones out, recording, getting this documented. And I heard you could hear in the background calls to this guy of, this guy needs to be thrown out of the hobby, or he needs to be killed. Like, seriously killed? Like, hey, that's a little extreme, I think. And that was what you heard. This guy had, was supposedly doing this. And apparently it's come out now, here we are Monday, that they weren't fake cards, that he wasn't selling fake cards or trying to trade fake cards or whatever. So people jump to these conclusions. His reputation, I don't even know the guy's name, but his reputation in the hobby might be destroyed all over the almighty dollar and selling fake cards and doing, whatever, or allegedly, I should say. What's your initial reaction to that, or Jen? Because I have many topics to go through regarding this greed destroying the hobby topic.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that was, at least from the Dallas Card Show episode, coming off of the Logan Paul incident last week, which, we've talked about a little bit. I did
And
a
we're going to
video
get
on
to
it.
that.
You talked
That's
about,
part of this discussion
like,
too.
so there's a little bit of like, we're thinking about that. We're looking at it, the hobby through the lens of that. And then the whole backyard breaks, fiasco. And then when you see a little bit of like, oh my gosh, I think these cards are fake. Everybody's already amped up from everything else and they overreacted. What, and we'll dig into this, but there's nothing I dislike more than the virtue signaling of somebody who thinks they've identified fakes. It just irritates the heck out of me. It's just not the type of guy I am. And look, there needs to be those certain type of people in the hobby that identify the frauds. I am cool with that. But like when everybody gets together and decides like somebody shouldn't be in the hobby, almost like the whole cancel culture that we have without getting facts in order, that to me is equally as wrong as somebody selling a fake. So it irritates the heck out of me. Social media is great for a lot of things, but it creates this whole momentum around things that not a fan of.
Yeah, I totally agree, by the way. And people were jumping into conclusions with this guy. And again, I need to read up some more on the current status of this, but apparently they weren't fake. So now, again, this guy's got this, it'll live forever on YouTube, right? Or wherever, Twitter and all this stuff. It's a shame. Now, the Logan Paul thing, there's a lot of people screaming out there that the Logan Paul thing was all fixed and doctored and that they set up Baseball Card Exchange to fail. There's a lot of rumors about that. And that's the problem with rumors, right? They're just that. And you and I can sit here and talk about stuff. And I think it's important that we stay with what we have seen or know than trying to speculate, because then we're just, getting into the same stuff that other people are. But there's no doubt that Pokemon case was not real. There's a 7-minute video out there of Logan Paul that was edited and all this, they created this story of him discovering that this case of first edition Pokemon is fake. And I know that's not sports cards, but it does involve one of the bigger names in the hobby, which is Baseball Card Exchange and Steve Hart, and authenticating unopened boxes, cases, sealed wax, etc. That's a big business, right? I think it's funny. One commentary I saw that I thought made a lot of sense is it's kind of sad when there's really only one person who can do that in the entire hobby, Steve Hart. Like that doesn't, like, really no one else has figured this stuff out, how to do that in a way that is honest and, not that anyone can get fooled.
Yep.
Anyone can get duped. And that was a line they used in the video. We all got duped, Well, you did, and that's a shame. I feel bad if that just ruins Steve. Does that mean every box Steve Hart has ever authenticated is fake? No, of course not. Should he be burned in effigy because he made a mistake? It was a rather expensive mistake, but no. It just bothers me that it's such a focus, and I hope it doesn't ruin Baseball Card Exchange's business forever because they made one mistake.
Well, they made one gigantic, enormous mistake, like the biggest mistake in potentially the history of sports cards, or not even sports cards. I mean, cards, the hobby. I think the bigger concern is if you made a mistake on that large of a scale, it's pretty easy to assume that there's plenty of other mistakes on a smaller scale. When in all reality, he probably should have taken more time to evaluate and validate and authenticate this one. So I get the concern. I mean, I really do. I mean, yeah, I hope his business isn't destroyed, but at the same time, if he's not running a legit business and it's not like accurate, sorry, see ya. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that point. I just can't believe that someone else hasn't come along and figured out and learned that side of it to be more competition for baseball card exchange in that area.
I'm surprised like PSA hasn't done that. Or yeah, you're exactly right. It's like, and we had this exchange in some comments, and it's one of those things where there needs to be an understanding if you're going to validate a case or even a box for that matter. You need to be able to cut it open and look inside of it and trust that the grading company is going to reseal it in a way that like validates it. Because like to like look at the outer edges of things and assume everything's right inside, it's not fair to the hobby or that grading company. But
yeah, so that's an interesting idea you bring up. For them to authenticate it truly, they really need to look inside of it, right? And if you say, well, it's a sealed box, let's say it's a sealed box of XYZ. Well, you cut open sealed box, look at the packs, whatever, and then put back, then rewrap it. You know what I mean? Why couldn't they do that? And that be just as good to the collector. Well, I want it in the original top cellophane. Really? Why does that matter? As long as it's all the packs are there, and who cares?
Yeah. And I mean, then you get into the whole, like, you take it to the next level. Then you got to open the packs because you want to make sure there's not GI Joe cards in the packs, like resealed packs. And then you get into the whole concern of opening the packs. And what if there's 3 Jordan rookies in that box? Do you trust that company to put them back? And like, I get it. That's why I've never purchased a sealed case or a box or, certain authenticated case or box. I just have zero interest in that world.
Yeah.
That's just me. I don't know if you have that and you've been interested in it, but.
Nope, not interested in it. I don't know. It's just part of the hobby. Sealed wax is a huge part of the hobby. And maybe we should just tell everybody to open all their boxes and they don't have to worry about having any sealed wax.
Yeah.
Then it's not an issue.
Yeah.
All right. So, you got money, tremendous amounts of money with Logan Paul. You got money potentially at the Dallas Card Show with fake cards being traded, sold, whatnot by people. You got the backyard breaks thing that you brought up earlier that I want to dive into a little bit. Some people have done some videos on it. First of all, if you haven't seen the video, backyard breaks, they broke a box of, it was a football box. Trying to remember the box. Do you remember, Ty, what they broke?
Yeah. What is it? Was it not Prestige? What is
it's not important. It's actually not important. They pulled a kaboom, and then they did this whole hype up to the kaboom, and it was a gold kaboom.
Absolute.
Okay. And they're like, we're giving all this away all at the beginning. We're giving this away. We're doing this for our fans, for our peeps kind of thing. They get to the kaboom. It's a Trevor Lawrence gold kaboom. And, we can't, I'm condensing this significantly because they take a long time to jump to get to this conclusion of, well, we really can't give that card away. Or you guys don't really expect us to give that away, do you? I mean, come on. We're a business here. We're running a business. We can't afford to give away $30,000 cards or whatever value they put on it. And they tried to backtrack a couple of days, the following days to make it right and all that. Just, it looked so bad, right? In the moment. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
Oh, it's just disgusting to me. First off, anyone that watches, anyone that participates with those guys, you got what you deserved. You look at them, you listen to them. And my immediate thought was, you've got to be kidding me. People give their money to these guys. They're just a joke. They're just a joke. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe some people like that style, but
you've been a figure. I'm gonna prop you up a little. You've been a significant figure in the breaking world for a decade, right? And it's not like you're new to this. So for your opinion matters to me. What you think about these guys, what they did. Have you ever seen anyone do anything like that before? I mean,
yeah. And when you say that, it's only because I've been interviewing group breakers from the podcast for years. And so I've got to talk the best of the best and some of the worst of the worst people that didn't make it. Right. And most of the time, like, doing the right thing for a breaker is the number one thing they have to do, because everything is on video. If it's not on video, then you just assume that you're doing something sketchy. And if it is on video and you do something sketchy, you're done. You're done. So yeah, when a group of guys does something like this and they're like not even hiding behind something. They're not even trying to fake it. They're just like, look, we're not giving this card away. I don't care what you guys think. I mean, who in their right mind like can digest that and think, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. It's like, no, they have zero integrity. And if you want to break with them, like expect something to go wrong. But there's too many other good breakers out there to be putting your money with. And I get it was a giveaway, but if they're doing it with the giveaway, they're going to do it with something else. And I think I don't want to go out and assume things, but I've been texted by certain people that they've been a part of some other things too that have been pretty sketchy. So, I mean, look, you get what you ask for. So it just, unfortunately, those people come and go. In the breaking world, they just come and go, and there'll be another one of those backyard breakers later this year, early next year, and all the way to eternity. It's gonna happen.
If you guys haven't seen it yet, go watch the video, and you guys can put down in comments below if you'd like to see Ty and I in those types of shirts next week that they wear. The cutoff. I could pull off a half shirt. You'd get all belly. Well, it'd be a screen full of belly, but
don't even think about it. If you show up in that, we're not even doing the episode.
Actually, you're going to sleep tonight thinking about me in a half shirt. You're going to have dreams about that, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually did think about that. I'm thinking, what if we, as a joke, both showed up and cut off shirts, and the thought of you being in a cut off shirt. I don't want the ladies drooling over Mike Moynihan in a cut off shirt.
Puking or drooling. We don't know, but it was pretty disgusting overall. It just made me go, really? And this hobby, and we're going to, I think, touch on this later, is how do you solve this problem of is greed destroying the hobby? And the words integrity and, honoring your word and all these things just keep coming to mind to me. You only have one chance to ruin your great reputation. Once you do it, it's really hard to earn that trust back. Very, very, very difficult, and takes a long, long, long time. And so I am always of the mind, why screw with that? Why risk it? It's not worth it. Was that what they lost worth the $30,000 card that they kept? I don't know. They are the only ones that can answer that. It doesn't seem like to me that would be an equitable deal, that they would be better off because of that. But that's another thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there's gray areas in the hobby for sure. Just like in any industry, there's some gray areas where it's like, okay, some people think that's wrong. Some people think that's right, and there's things like this they're not gray. They're black and white to me. When you say you're going to do something, do it.
Right.
Period. Whether on your eBay policy, if you have a 1-day shipping policy and you ship it in 2 days, is that equally as bad? No, it's not. And there's a lot of that too. And there's a lot of other little minuscule things in the hobby that can rub people the wrong way. These are big things that should make people just frustrated, absolutely frustrated with the direction the hobby's going.
So another big kind of area that I see greed potentially ruining the hobby. We're saying notice there's a question mark at the end of our question down. We're not saying it is. We're saying there are some signs out there that are scary to see. And one of them that I'm seeing and thinking through and really wondering how this is all going to work is the whole Fanatics thing. And what I mean by that is Fanatics paid, however much money they paid for their licenses for all these sports. They just paid $500 million for Topps. There's a big nut out there that they have to try to reach. And I promise you, Michael Rubin and the other investors in Fanatics want their money back as soon as possible. What's the quickest way that they can do that? Well, they can print the crap out of, They can produce so much stuff. I don't think they look at it. They're VC guys, they're venture capital guys. They don't think short term. They think, how quick can we double our money or 3x our money or whatever? And that greed might lead them to make some decisions that are not good for the hobby long term. I don't know that they have a 20-year time horizon on this. And that scares me. That potentiality of that scares me a little bit. about the short-term future of the hobby, the next 4, 5, 6 years, and what's going to happen. I mean, at some point, supply and demand are going to start dictating a lot of their decisions, right? They're not going to print stuff that's going to sit in shelves and warehouses ultimately. But right now, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that idea? And you can unpack that or go with that
Yeah.
however you want.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I think
Am I
it'll be
overreacting,
interesting.
by the way?
Well, I think maybe a little bit because I think the one thing Ruben has said consistently, and it's not Ruben, sorry, Luber, I guess I said this consistently, is they want to get rid of the overprinting and the number of, and even in his, 75 page manifesto, he talks about just the number of parallels and the increases and how it's just kind of diluted the hobby. So to their credit, I do appreciate that they've stayed on that train the entire time of being on, interviews and stuff. But I think what they're missing in all that is there's a massive part of the hobby. A massive part of the hobby that wants nothing to do with just high-end certified low numbered cards. I mean, I would say the majority of people probably don't. You look at, I was reading some boards. I was in preparation for this today. I was just typing, fraud in the hobby, and you go through just all the message boards in the hobby, and the typical response to that in the message boards, like, how do you handle the fraud? It's, well, I don't buy high end graded stuff. I stick to what I love, and that's low end, that's commons, that's, the low grades, the things that we take for granted because of the new hobby. That part of the hobby's been alive and well, and is still alive and well. That doesn't even phase them because they don't care. And if you get rid of that part of the hobby, their investment in the hobby is a lot smaller than they think, because you're gonna essentially excommunicate that piece of the hobby. It's not gonna be pretty. So a little bit of a tangent, but that to me, I think, is the bigger concern. If they do go on that path of knocking out the commons and knocking out a lot of the overprinted stuff, well, that's the stuff nobody fakes. That's the stuff nobody counterfeits.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So much to be told in that story. I'm just worried about the greed of Fanatics, and not that Topps wasn't greedy or Panini's not greedy. I'm not saying, they're all businesses. Their job is to make money for their shareholders. We think they're in it to help us, the collector. They're not. They have no. Neither does PSA or SGC. They owe us nothing. They're providing us a service that we are paying for. They're either providing us a product or they're providing us a service. And for us to be self-righteous and think, oh, they need to do it for the community, they need to do it for the hobby, they need to do it for the collector and all that, I think that's naive. I think the reality is they're going to do what's in the best interest of their business,
and
their shareholders, and they should. You can choose to participate in that or not. I get to choose with my wallet. I can choose to use SGC. I can choose to use PSA. I can choose not to. I can choose not to buy Topps products if I don't like the product or don't like the business or whatever. Those are choices I make. They're going to make decisions that they think are in the best interest of their business, not because they want to do some great things for the hobby.
Yeah.
We like to think they would, but the reality is they're not. They're not in the boardroom going, man, what can we do for the hobby? They've been so great to us. They've stuck by us all these years. That's just not how businesses think.
Yeah. And like the way you hope they're approaching this, because yes, you're exactly right. And that's the way any business would run. It's, you have the leadership, and then you put people in places that can make decisions that are good for the hobby. And then the overarching goal will be to drive profits and revenue and all that stuff. But put people in places that have best intentions in mind. And hopefully they do that. We'll have to watch that closely, right? It's like there's certain things that matter to us that will not matter to them at the end of the day. But I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to wrap up that thought, I'm not as concerned about that as much as you're seeing more and more stuff come out about graded cards being counterfeit, and now the Logan Paul thing, like that stuff, I think we're going to see a lot more of it. I think we're just going to see a lot more of it. Unfortunately, what it's going to inject is uncertainty and fear in the marketplace, and that is not a good thing. That is not a good thing at all.
I think that's the first step to people leaving the hobby. If they can't trust the hobby, why would they be in it and put all their money in it and do these things?
Yeah.
That's the part that I would hate to see is people leaving the hobby because they got screwed over, because they bought something that was fake and they spent all this money and they're like, well, screw it. This is terrible. And they lose the opportunity to experience how great this hobby can be.
Yeah.
And how wonderful it is and how much connections it can make. And so to that end, thinking about, is greed destroying the hobby? I think greed's going to try to destroy the hobby. I do not think greed will destroy the hobby. The hobby's been around a long time. There have been greedy people all along. I mean, it's funny how short the memories are of the collector base. I mean, PWCC scandal, trimming and all that. How long ago was that? Not very long ago. 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. Nobody talks about it anymore. That didn't stop. I mean, it wasn't like that got solved, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah.
Memories are pretty short. It's not dissimilar from, a guy using steroids. He serves his time, comes back, hits a home run for your team. You're cheering for him. You want him to hit a home run, right? And we want this hobby to do well. So I think maybe we regress some of these memories to the back of our brain because we want the hobby to be positive and honest and good. And so we just go, man, that was a anomaly. Let's hope that doesn't keep happening. I don't want that to happen anymore because I want the good parts of this hobby to flourish and do well. So I don't think the hobby's going anywhere. Is greed going to destroy the hobby? No. Do you agree? What do you think? Like, if you were to answer that question, yes or no, is greed destroying the hobby?
It's going to destroy the hobby for some people. I think that's my answer to that question. And it'll be probably it'll be a piece of the hobby that people are okay with losing. What
do you mean by that? I know what you mean by that, but I want you to expand for others.
The flippers, the investors, you might not get, like everybody was saying a year ago, you might not get 100 new mega stars and names entering the hobby like you thought. And to a lot of people, that's okay. To me, that's okay. I don't need to see 10 more Mark Wahlbergs join the hobby for me to love it more. Like, I don't need that.
Right.
But for the mega investors and the people that have put their money on the line, they need that. And so it's going to affect them. So it's going to destroy the hobby for some people, I guess is my answer to that. I mean, there's going to be an episode of American Greed about the hobby. But the point is there's episodes of American Greed on all kinds of pieces of business and sectors where there's money to be made. There will be greed and there will be counterfeits and there will be scandals. Either you accept that and deal with it, stay within your means, or you don't. Like, you and I don't buy cards that if they're found counterfeit, we have to go mortgage our house, but to deal with the we don't carry that much risk on cards, and some people do, and you have to be carrying that risk. When guys like Ryan from Breakout Cards, who just spent the weekend with you, are identifying PSA 8s and 9s Jordans that are fakes, it's like, no thanks. That's not for me. That's for some people, but that's not for me.
Yeah. Speaking of Ryan, he did stay with me this weekend for the Dallas Card Show. He has a new book out. This is a paid advertisement from Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. I'm showing this because I want to. It's called Spotting Fakes. He wrote a book examining the top 50 fake cards. He does a great job going through lots of rookie cards and a bunch of vintage stuff, Mantle rookies and basketball, baseball, you name it. You can pick that up on Amazon. We'll try to remember to put a link down to the Amazon link to this book below if you want to go check it out by Ryan. We get nothing for doing that other than I like the book and I like Ryan, and I think he's coming at it from the right way, trying to help people figure it out for themselves. At the end of the day, if you get duped in the hobby, you have no one to blame but yourself. You want to blame the other guy? Oh, he shouldn't have put out a fake card. Well, you shouldn't have bought a fake card. I mean, I don't know. Where does the blame lie? It's on us. If I buy a card, I don't, luckily, like you said, we're not playing in those areas where, you know, I'm mortgaging my future, so to speak, if this card turns out to be a bad deal. But you got to be careful, man. You got to look out for yourself, and you got to do your own research, and you got to find trusted, you know, people that you can associate with and learn from. And that's how you keep from letting greed destroy you in the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the overarching question is, is greed destroying the hobby? It's going to destroy a piece of it. But I think the takeaway for me is, if you're not okay with it, if it irks you that much, if you lose sleep over it, then maybe this is not the hobby for you. And that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. Like, this has been around since the early 70s in the hobby. This is nothing new. Like you already talked about, social media now exposes a lot of things that were not able to be exposed back then. Technology allows us to see things that we couldn't see before. There will always be these little nuances that are going to rub people the wrong way. If that bothers you that much and you just want to complain about it, just leave the hobby. Like, just leave.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, I get more annoyed by the people that complain about it all the time than those that do it. Like, yeah, if they do something screwy and they're counterfeit, like, I just don't deal with them. Like, I block them, I move on. That's just that. That's going to happen anywhere. But if you're going to sit around and complain about it all day, like, please move on.
Right.
Can you tell I get annoyed by
man.
that?
Huh?
Can you tell I get annoyed by that? Does that bother you too? Or am I alone in this?
No, you're not alone. Not alone. During the PWCC thing a number of years ago, I got so tired of hearing about it. And, well, don't you care? Of course I care. What can I do about it? Do I have fake cards in my card case behind me? Maybe. Do I lose sleep over it? No. I mean, what am I going to do? I can't fix it. I can
Let me ask you this. If
Yeah.
somebody came up to you and they said that because you have a 53 mantle, right? 52.
51.
You're
man.
51 and it's a what? PSA 5?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's say someone came up to you and they said, that mantle, that looks counterfeit to me. It's counterfeit. What is your response to that?
Initially, it would be, why? What makes you think that? What are you seeing here that makes this card not look real? I've looked at the card. It looks real to me. I don't know. I've only been doing this 40 years. I mean, barring cracking to me, identifying fakes is very difficult. You could tell by texture. You know, you've felt cards, Ty. We've done it together where I go, see how that doesn't feel right, you know, and there's a lot of things, an experience that comes with that. I would be disappointed. I would probably, if I really verified, not just somebody telling me it was fake, but I was verified, like PSA took it back and said, yeah, we're sorry, we shouldn't have graded this card, it's fake, or this and that, I would destroy the card. And I would just be bad on me.
No, you wouldn't.
What would I do? What can I do?
You would destroy the card. You would eat your $15,000.
Well, again, what else could I do? Am I going to go to PSA and sue them for grading a fake card?
You could just put it back in your case and not even think about it again. I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, but because, for instance, right, Ryan, he's pointing out these cards that are selling on eBay that he thinks are fake. And if you have PSA authenticating that with the experts, and I'm not saying some of them aren't fake, I'm not saying that at all. Is it your duty then, if someone comes to you and says, hey, that card you just bought, that's fake, although it's PSA slabbed at a PSA 9, is it your duty then, because someone said that, to go send it back to PSA and say, hey, somebody says this is fake, what should I do?
No. Well, what you said is actually the most likely scenario. Especially if they didn't have any good compelling evidence that it was fake, I would just put it back in the case and go, okay, thank you, appreciate your opinion, and sleep very well that night. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. And let's say you end up selling your mantle 5 years from now. You sell it for $75,000, and somebody then decides that, you know what, gosh, it was fake a year later, and they send it to PSA. Is it on you to refund the $75,000?
I would feel compelled to do that.
Because that's the situation we saw with Logan Paul, right? Who knows what was actually going on behind the scenes, but it's like there's this chain of people that weren't doing anything wrong.
Right.
They weren't doing anything wrong. And you could even make a case that in your situation, maybe nobody did anything wrong, except PSA made an error. And in that case, they made an error. But like, I think a lot of that happens. What's that?
I'm just saying it's so hard. Like, how do you decide where the blame falls and who's responsible, and ultimately who has to eat the cost of that mistake?
That goes back to a deeper discussion on if a grading company doesn't have a guarantee, then are they really authenticating anything? Like there's no liability on the grading company. It's like a drug company that creates a something for you to take, and if you get sick from it, you can't go back to the drug company. It's like there's got to be someone has to actually own something in this process that show a little bit of accountability. Is that the grading company's job?
Well, let's leave that for a whole nother discussion. We've already been going 40 minutes, and people are probably already sick of listening to us at this point. But
because I think to me, the only way you even attempt to start pushing out the greed and the counterfeits and the frustrations around this subject is to allow and for people to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to own this. I'm going to put my neck on the line and have accountability for what I'm doing. That's what irked me the most with Baseball Card Exchange. They demonstrated zero accountability. It can't happen. Like there's no reason to grade anything if you can't show accountability.
Right.
End of story.
And that's the end of our episode, guys. Thanks.
You just want to end. You don't want me to talk anymore.
I love your points. I'm just like, I need to think about all that. I don't want to just give a snap response to it because it's deep stuff and it's good stuff. It's just stuff I need to contemplate a little.
Yeah. Well,
you've obviously thought a lot about this. So,
well, I have thought about it, but for me, I just accepted the fact that there's going to be this stuff in our hobby. It's always been there. I love our hobby too much for it to like taint my view on it. I just accept that crap will happen and I move on and I try to ignore it and stay away from it as best as I can. I'm not the virtue signaler. That's not my job. That's somebody else's job. So yeah, it annoys me, but it doesn't change my view of the hobby. I love it just as much.
Same here. I ultimately feel the same way you do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let it bother me. I get that it happens. I hope it doesn't happen to me. I'm going to try to avoid it as best I can, but doesn't mean I won't ever get duped. It doesn't mean I won't ever get fooled. And I accept that responsibility that might happen. So, all right, man, let us know what you think down below as you watch this, and hopefully we'll get a lot of probably very opinionated and emotional comments, and that's good. We want to hear what you think. So thanks, Ty, man. I'll see you.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about your 51 mantle, that it's fake. I'm really, really sorry about that. Have a good week.
See you, man. You too.